Billionaire CEO had everything money could buy, except an answer for what he saw in that store. Their eyes locked across the pharmacy aisle. Time froze as Ethan Crossley stared at the infant in Amara's arms, a baby with his eyes, his chin, unmistakably his child. Is he? Ethan's voice cracked, the question hanging incomplete in the air between them. Noah, Amara said, her voice steady but distant. My son. How old? The words barely escaped his throat. 6 months. She shifted the carrier protectively. I didn't think you'd want to know. Ethan's world tilted on its axis. 6 months. The math was undeniable. The baby, Noah, was conceived before their final argument, before he'd chosen his company over her, before he'd walked away thinking he was free. Why didn't you tell me, he whispered, his billion-dollar empire suddenly meaningless. Amara laughed, a hollow, wounded sound. You made it clear that nothing was more important than your precious startup. Not even us. As she turned to leave, Noah's eyes, his eyes, locked onto Ethan's face with an intensity that stripped away every defense he'd built. In that moment, the man who owned everything realized he possessed nothing that truly mattered. Hello beautiful souls. Welcome to Mr. Stephen's Stories, where we journey through life's most powerful moments together. If this is your first time here, I'd love for you to join our storytelling family by hitting that subscribe button. Now, let's continue with this story of redemption, second chances, and discovering what true wealth really means. Rain pelted the windows of Ethan Crossley's luxury sedan as it glided through downtown Riverton City. The quarterly earnings call for EdTech Solutions had gone brilliantly, stock up 17%, but the migraine pulsing behind his temples overshadowed any satisfaction. Pull over at the next pharmacy, Marcus, he instructed his driver. I need to grab something for this headache. Of course, sir. Marcus navigated toward a small neighborhood drugstore. Would you like me to get it for you? No. Ethan massaged his temples. I need to stretch my legs. The pharmacy wasn't his usual stop. Ethan typically sent assistants for such mundane errands, but tonight, impatience and pain drove him through the automatic doors himself. Fluorescent lights intensified his discomfort as he located the pain relievers, then paused at a refrigerated section for water. That's when he heard it, a laugh that stopped him cold. A laugh he hadn't heard in 7 years. Turning slowly, Ethan saw her, Amara Lewis, standing near the baby supplies. She looked different, her once long hair now cut to her shoulders, her posture more confident despite obvious exhaustion. But what froze his blood wasn't seeing Amara. It was the infant carrier she cradled carefully in her arms. The conversation had been brief, stilted. They exchanged contact information with the awkward formality of strangers, though they had once shared everything. She mentioned she was staying with her mother in Ashford, Oregon. Health issues, she said vaguely. He nodded, unable to formulate proper questions. Back in his penthouse, Ethan paced restlessly, the migraine medication forgotten in its paper bag. The floor-to-ceiling windows showcased his empire, gleaming towers and digital networks that spanned continents. Everything he'd sacrificed for. Everything he'd chosen over Amara. He pressed his forehead against the cool glass. 7 years ago, he'd walked away when his education technology startup received its first major funding. He'd convinced himself it was timing, they were too young, his career too demanding. The truth was uglier. He'd been afraid of the vulnerability that came with loving someone that completely. Their final argument replayed in his mind. Her tears when he suggested they take a break while he focused on expansion. His coldness when she begged him to reconsider. We talked about a future together, she had cried, her voice breaking. Was that all just words to you? It's not forever, he'd replied, eyes on his laptop screen rather than her face. It's just bad timing. The investors need my complete focus right now. There will always be investors, Ethan. There will always be another reason to put us last. This is our chance, he'd insisted. Mine and yours. Once the company takes off, we can have everything we talked about. That's not how love works. Her voice had gone quiet then. You don't put it on a shelf until it's convenient. He'd chosen his company, his ambition, his fear of dependence. Walked away telling himself it was the rational choice. He never knew she was pregnant. Never knew he had a son. Dawn found him still awake, something long dormant awakening inside him. By 7 a.m., he was in his office, calling in his operations manager. Lydia, I need information. His voice was steady despite his sleepless night. It's personal and requires absolute discretion. Lydia Moore had been with him since the beginning. Her expression remained neutral as she took her seat. Of course, sir. I need you to find out everything you can about Amara Lewis. She's living in Ashford, Oregon. And... He paused. Her son, Noah. Born approximately 6 months ago. If Lydia was surprised, she didn't show it. Timeline for this information. Yesterday. Ethan swiveled his chair to face the window. And Lydia? This stays between us. By evening, a comprehensive file sat on his desk. Noah Lewis, born 6 months and 2 weeks ago to Amara Lewis. No father listed on the birth certificate. The timing aligned perfectly with their last month together. The file painted a challenging picture. Amara's mother, Dr. Helen Lewis, battling chronic kidney disease. Medical bills mounting. Amara balancing part-time tutoring work with postgraduate studies in literature. Their small apartment in Ashford with overdue rent notices. What would you like me to do, sir? Lydia asked, her expression carefully neutral. Ethan stared out at the city skyline, his empire spread beneath him in gleaming towers and digital networks. He had built a company valued at billions, transformed educational access globally, and earned a reputation as a brilliant, if reclusive, innovator. Yet looking at the photograph of Noah, he felt utterly empty. Set up anonymous assistance, he said finally. Housing grants, medical funding for Dr. Helen, an academic fellowship for Amara at Ashford University. But discreet, Lydia. Nothing traceable. May I ask why the anonymity? Lydia inquired carefully. Ethan's fingers traced the edge of Noah's photo. Because I haven't earned the right to help them openly. It wasn't enough. He knew that. But it was a start. For weeks, Ethan monitored the quiet reports. Amara received emergency housing assistance. Dr. Helen qualified for an experimental treatment program. A part-time fellowship opened specifically tailored to Amara's research interests. He watched from a distance as small burdens lifted from her shoulders, knowing he was merely addressing symptoms of his greater failure. The nanny cam footage Lydia had somehow obtained showed a cramped apartment transformed by small moments of grace. Amara reading to Noah, her voice soft and melodic. Dr. Helen, despite her frailty, singing lullabies from a rocking chair. The three of them forming a tight unit bonded by love and necessity. Ethan found himself watching the footage late into the night, transfixed by this parallel life he'd never known existed. The way Amara's eyes crinkled when she laughed, still the same. The way she pressed kisses to Noah's tiny fingers. The unmistakable shape of his own eyes looking back from his son's face. His son. The word still felt foreign, miraculous, terrifying. One night, after watching Amara struggle to balance Noah on her hip while typing one-handed on a research paper, something broke inside Ethan. All his wealth, his influence, his careful distance, suddenly it felt cowardly. The handwritten letter took him 3 days to compose. Black ink on cream paper, his penmanship careful and deliberate, so different from the digital communication that dominated his life. Amara, asterisk. I know about Noah. I saw it immediately in his eyes, in the shape of his face. He is beautiful, and I have no right to him or to you, asterisk. I cannot ask forgiveness for walking away. What I did was unforgivable. But I can try to do better now. The assistance you've received recently wasn't coincidence. I wanted to help without intruding on the life you've built without me, asterisk. I don't expect anything. I only ask for a chance to meet my son properly, on whatever terms you set. I will accept any boundaries, any conditions, asterisk. I have no excuse for the man I was. I can only try to be worthy of the chance to know Noah, and perhaps, someday, to rebuild something of what I destroyed between us, asterisk. Ethan asterisk. Her response came a week later, a single line. One meeting. Neutral location. Tomorrow at 2 p.m., asterisk. The cafe she chose was quiet, tucked between a bookstore and a florist. Ethan arrived 30 minutes early, heart hammering against his ribs. He ordered tea he couldn't drink, arranged and rearranged the sugar packets, checked his watch every 90 seconds. When Amara walked in with Noah in his carrier, the cafe seemed to shrink around them. She looked beautiful, tired but determined, her simple jeans and sweater more striking to him than any designer dress. Noah was bundled in a blue blanket, little hands waving in the air. "You're early," she said, sliding into the seat across from him. "So are you." He couldn't take his eyes off the baby. "May I?" He gestured toward Noah. Amara hesitated, then adjusted the carrier so Ethan could see him better. Noah was even more perfect up close. His eyes, Ethan's eyes, took in the world with curious intensity. When those eyes locked on Ethan's face, something fundamental shifted in the universe. "He looks like you," Amara said quietly. "I'm sorry," Ethan whispered, the words entirely inadequate. "For everything." "I'm not interested in apologies," she replied, her voice steady. "I'm interested in actions. Noah deserves better than words. Tell me what you need." "Anything. I don't want your money." Her eyes flashed. "The anonymous help, I figured it out. Don't manipulate situations from a distance." "I won't," he promised. "Never again. My mother needs specialized care. I'm finishing my doctorate. We're moving to Ashford permanently next month. I can help," Ethan said carefully. "No strings attached. No control. Just support." Amara studied him, searching for sincerity or manipulation. "Why now, Ethan? You have everything. Why complicate your perfect life?" Ethan looked at his son, then back to the woman he had once loved, perhaps had never stopped loving. "Because seeing Noah made me realize I have nothing that matters. Nothing at all." Noah made a small gurgling sound, his tiny hand reaching out. Without thinking, Ethan extended his finger. Noah grasped it, his grip surprisingly strong. Something shifted in Amara's expression, not forgiveness, not yet. But perhaps the beginning of understanding. "I don't want promises," she said finally. "I want consistency. Noah needs stability, not grand gestures." "One day at a time," Ethan agreed softly. "That's all I ask for. A chance to be present, to learn how to be what he needs. What you both deserve." As Noah's tiny hand held his finger, Ethan felt the first real sense of purpose he'd known in 7 years. All his wealth, his power, his success, none of it compared to this small, perfect connection. If you're enjoying this story of redemption and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe to Mr. Stephen Love Stories. Your support helps our channel grow, and you'll never miss our newest heartfelt narratives. Now, let's continue with Ethan's journey toward becoming the father and man he was meant to be. 3 weeks later, Ethan stood in Amara's small apartment in Ashford, a box of baby supplies in his arms. "Dar." Helen observed him from her armchair, her gaze analytical and unimpressed. "You can put those in the nursery," Amara said, gesturing down the hallway. The nursery was a converted closet, barely large enough for the crib and changing table. Noah lay on his back, kicking enthusiastically at a mobile hanging above him. "Hi there," Ethan said softly, setting down the box. Noah turned toward his voice, those familiar eyes focusing on him with uncanny intensity. "He recognizes your voice," Amara said from the doorway. "Really?" Something warm expanded in Ethan's chest. "You've been coming every other day for 3 weeks," she pointed out. "Babies are more perceptive than people give them credit for." From the living room, Dr. Helen called out, "Amara, it's time for my medication." "Coming, Mom." Amara gave Ethan an appraising look. "Can you watch him for 5 minutes?" Panic flared briefly. I don't know how." "Just talk to him. Let him know you're there. He's not going anywhere." She disappeared down the hallway. Alone with Noah, Ethan knelt beside the crib. "Hey, buddy," he whispered. It's your dad." The word felt strange on his tongue, weighted with responsibility he was only beginning to understand. Noah blinked up at him, then smiled, a gummy, drooling, heart-stopping smile. "Oh," Ethan breathed, undone by such a simple gesture. "Hi there." When Amara returned, she found Ethan sitting on the floor, telling Noah about his first computer program. "I was 13, he was saying, and it was just a simple text adventure game, but when it worked, I felt like I'd discovered fire." "Teaching him coding already?" Amara asked, leaning against the doorframe. Ethan looked up, slightly embarrassed. "Just telling him stories. I don't know what to talk about with babies." "You're doing fine." Something in her voice had softened. "He likes the sound of your voice." Back in the living room, Dr. Helen watched their interaction with narrowed eyes. "So," she said as Ethan helped Amara prepare dinner, "you've decided to be a father after 7 months." "Mom," Amara warned. "No, it's a fair question," Ethan said. He met Dr. Helen's gaze directly. "I didn't know about Noah until I saw him at the pharmacy. If I had known Amara was pregnant, I'd like to think I would have made different choices. But you didn't, Dr. Helen pressed. "You left my daughter when she needed you most." "Yes." He didn't flinch from the truth. "And I have to live with that. But I'm here now, and I'm not leaving again." Dr. Helen's expression remained skeptical. "Rich men make promises easily." "I understand your distrust," Ethan said quietly. "I'll earn your trust the same way I hope to earn Amara's, and Noah's. Through consistency. Through being present. Through showing up even when it's difficult." Dr. Helen studied him for a long moment, then nodded once. Not acceptance, but acknowledgement of the attempt. That night, as Ethan prepared to leave, Amara walked him to the door. "I've been thinking about what you said," she began, her voice careful. "About support without strings." "Yes. We've been on the wait list for a 2-bedroom apartment for months. With Mom's treatments and my fellowship schedule." She trailed off, visibly uncomfortable, asking for help. "I can look into it," Ethan said simply. "No manipulation," she warned. "No buying the building or anything extravagant." A smile tugged at his lips. "Just a call to see if the waitlist can be expedited. I promise." She nodded, relieved. "Thank you, Amara," he said, before leaving. "What you've done for Noah, for your mother, it's extraordinary. You shouldn't have had to do it alone." "But I did," she replied, not unkindly. "And we survived." "You did more than survive," Ethan said softly. "You built something beautiful." Their eyes held for a moment. Not reconciliation, not yet. But something like respect beginning to form in the space between them. Back in his hotel room, he'd rented a suite in Ashford to be close to Noah. Ethan made a decision. He called Lydia. I need you to restructure my schedule permanently, he said without preamble. I'll be splitting my time between Riverton and Ashford for the foreseeable future. For how long, sir? Lydia asked. Ethan watched the sunset over the small university town, thinking of Noah's smile. Indefinitely. The following weeks established a tentative rhythm. Ethan visited every other day, gradually learning the basics of childcare. He mastered diaper changes with clinical precision, learned to heat bottles to the perfect temperature, discovered that Noah loved being sung to, even by Ethan's admittedly terrible voice. Amara watched his efforts with guarded optimism. Sometimes, when Noah fell asleep in Ethan's arms, she would catch herself staring at them, the matching profiles, the same determined set of the chin, even in sleep. He's going to be stubborn, like you, she remarked one afternoon. Poor kid, Ethan replied with a small smile. Hopefully he gets your compassion to balance it out. The two-bedroom apartment came through unexpectedly quickly. Ethan helped with the move, careful not to overstep. He hired movers but didn't upgrade the furniture without asking. He installed safety features throughout the apartment but consulted Amara on each decision. Small moments of connection began to accumulate. Amara calling Ethan when Noah rolled over for the first time. Ethan bringing research materials Amara needed for her dissertation when Noah was too fussy for her to go to the library. The three of them establishing patterns that began to feel like family. Dar. Helen's condition improved gradually with the experimental treatment. She watched Ethan's integration into their lives with cautious approval. You're not what I expected, she told him one evening as they waited for Amara to return from a late class. What did you expect? Ethan asked, bouncing Noah gently as he fussed. Someone more, entitled. Dr. Helen adjusted her blanket. You've surprised me with your willingness to learn. I have a lot to make up for, Ethan said simply. Yes, she agreed. But you're trying. That counts for something. Then came the setback. 3 months into their arrangement, Ethan missed a planned visit. Then another. His calls became brief, distracted. It's a major integration issue with our new platform, he explained to Amara over the phone. I have to be in Riverton to oversee it personally. I understand, she said, her voice cooling. Work comes first. That's not, Ethan began, but she had already hung up. 5 days passed without contact. On the 6th day, Amara opened her door to find Ethan standing there, looking exhausted. May I come in? He asked quietly. She stepped aside wordlessly. I'm sorry, he began as soon as the door closed. Don't. Amara's voice was tight. This is exactly what I was afraid of, Ethan. You're doing the same thing again, prioritizing your company over your son. That's not what happened. He ran a hand through his disheveled hair. The integration issue was cover. The truth is, my father is trying to orchestrate a hostile takeover. Amara blinked, momentarily thrown. What? Victor Crossley, tech pioneer and terrible father. Ethan's voice was bitter. He's always thought I was too soft to run a major corporation. When he found out about Noah, about you, he decided I was compromised. Started moving against me with the board. So you were protecting your company. Her voice hardened again. No. Ethan met her eyes directly. I was protecting Noah's future. If my father takes control, the first thing he'll do is investigate my personal expenditures. He'll find the support I've been providing. He'll use it as leverage. Understanding dawned on Amara's face. He'd use us against you. He'd try. Ethan's jaw tightened. But I'm not letting that happen. What did you do? She asked. I restructured the entire company. A small, tired smile crossed his face. Set up an irrevocable trust in Noah's name, separate from the company assets. Created a separate entity to manage your mother's medical care. Then I promoted my COO to acting CEO and removed myself from day-to-day operations. Amara stared at him, stunned. You stepped down from your own company? I'm still chairman, he clarified. But yes, I've significantly reduced my role. Why would you do that? Ethan's expression softened as he looked toward the nursery where Noah was napping. Because some things are more important than corporate control. Your company is your life, Amara said, disbelief coloring her voice. No, Ethan replied simply. It's not. Not anymore. If this story is touching your heart, please take a moment to like and subscribe to Mr. Stephen's Stories. Your support means the world to us, and it helps more people discover stories of redemption, second chances, and the true meaning of wealth. Now, let's see how Ethan's sacrifice changes their relationship. Summer arrived in Ashford, bringing warm days and new milestones. Noah began to crawl, chasing after sunbeams on the living room floor with determined focus. Ethan, now permanently relocated to a modest house 10 minutes away, was there for each new development. The distance between Ethan and Amara began to soften. Small touches, her hand on his arm as they exchanged Noah, their fingers brushing as they both reached for a toy, created currents of awareness neither acknowledged aloud. One evening, as they sat on Amara's small balcony watching the sunset while Noah slept inside, she finally asked the question that had been lingering between them. Do you regret it? Stepping back from your company? Ethan considered the question seriously. I thought I would, he admitted. EdTech was my identity for so long. But strangely, no. I don't regret it. Not even a little, she pressed. The company still benefits from my vision, he explained. But now I have room for more important things. His eyes met hers. For people who matter more. Amara looked away, but not before Ethan caught the flush on her cheeks. What about you? He asked. Do you regret letting me back into your lives? No, she answered softly. Noah deserves to know his father. And you've proven yourself more dedicated than I expected. High praise, he teased gently. She smiled, a real smile that reached her eyes. Don't get cocky, crossly. The moment stretched between them, comfortable and charged simultaneously. Ethan, she began hesitantly. There's something. Noah's cry from inside interrupted her. She rose quickly, shooting Ethan an apologetic look before hurrying inside. The moment, whatever it might have become, dissolved into the practical reality of parenthood. The next day brought crisis. Ethan arrived for his regular morning visit to find Amara frantically packing an overnight bag. What's happening? He asked, immediately alert. It's Mom. Amara's voice was tight with fear. Her kidney function is dropping rapidly. They're admitting her to University Hospital. Where's Noah? Mrs. Peterson next door is watching him for a few hours, but I need to find someone for overnight, and the regular sitter is out of town, and I don't know how long I'll need to be there. Amara. Ethan gently grasped her shoulders. I'll take Noah. She froze. You've never had him overnight. I can do this, he said firmly. You focus on your mother. Noah and I will be fine. Uncertainty flickered across her face. He has a routine. Which I know, Ethan reminded her. You've walked me through it a dozen times. And I can call you if I have questions. Amara bit her lip, then nodded. Okay. Thank you. As she gathered the last of her things, Ethan helped pack Noah's diaper bag with military precision. His favorite stuffed elephant is on the crib, Amara instructed. He won't sleep without it. And he likes the lullaby playlist I made, it's on my tablet. And he's been a little congested, so the humidifier. Amara. Ethan took her hand. I've got this. Go be with your mom. We'll be fine. After retrieving Noah from the neighbor and saying a tearful goodbye, Ethan found himself alone with his son for the first time. The responsibility settled on his shoulders like a weight both heavy and precious. "Well, buddy," he said to Noah, who blinked up at him with solemn eyes, "it's just you and me now." The night proved more challenging than Ethan had anticipated. Noah, sensing his mother's absence, refused to settle. Ethan tried every trick he'd learned, rocking, singing, the stuffed elephant, the lullaby playlist, but nothing worked for long. At 2 a.m., as he paced the living room with a whimpering Noah against his shoulder, Ethan had a revelation. All his billions, his technological innovations, his corporate strategies, none of it had prepared him for the fundamentally human task of comforting his crying son. And yet, this sleepless night, this tiny hand clutching his shirt, this overwhelming love for a small being who shared his DNA, this felt more real, more important than anything he'd accomplished before. "It's okay to miss your mom," he whispered to Noah. "I miss her too, sometimes. Even when she's in the same room." Somehow, his soft confession seemed to soothe Noah. The baby's cries gradually subsided to hiccuping breaths, then to the even rhythm of sleep. Ethan didn't dare move to the bedroom. Instead, he settled carefully onto the couch, Noah secure against his chest, and closed his eyes. When Amara called the next morning, exhaustion evident in her voice, Ethan responded with calm reassurance. "How is he?" she asked immediately. "Sleeping now," Ethan replied. "We had a rough night, but we figured it out. And you? Are you okay?" The question, so simple and yet so caring, touched something deep in Ethan. "I'm good," he said softly. "How's your mom?" "Stabilized," Amara sighed. "They're adjusting her medication. I'll need to stay another day at least." "Take whatever time you need," Ethan assured her. "Noah and I have this covered." There was a pause, then Amara said, "Thank you, Ethan. For being there when we need you." "Always," he promised. The word hung between them, weighted with history and possibility. By the time Amara returned 2 days later, Ethan and Noah had established their own rhythm. She found them in the living room, Noah babbling happily as Ethan read to him from a children's book about space exploration. "And that Saturn," Ethan was saying, pointing to the picture. "Most beautiful planet in our solar system, with those rings. We'll look at it through a telescope someday." "Planning his future already?" Amara asked from the doorway. Ethan looked up, his face lighting at the sight of her. "Just keeping our options open. Astronaut, tech genius, or literary scholar like his mom." Noah squealed with delight at the sound of Amara's voice, arms reaching toward her. She crossed the room quickly, scooping him up and burying her face in his neck. "I missed you so much," she murmured. "He missed you too," Ethan said, standing. "How's Dr. Helen?" "Better." Relief colored Amara's voice. "They're adjusting her immunosuppressants. She'll be home tomorrow." "That's good news." He began gathering Noah's things scattered around the living room. "I should get going, give you two some time together." "Ethan, wait." Amara's voice stopped him. Thank you. For everything." He turned, finding her closer than expected. "You don't need to thank me for taking care of my own son. Not just for that." She shifted Noah to her hip. "For being steady when I couldn't be. For stepping up without taking over." Her free hand reached out, tentatively touching his. "For becoming someone I can depend on." Ethan looked down at their hands, then back to her face. "Amara, The door buzzer interrupted. Amara's neighbor, checking in after Amara's return. The moment suspended between them, neither advancing nor retreating, simply acknowledged. As summer faded into fall, their careful dance of co-parenting evolved into something deeper. Shared meals became more frequent. Ethan joined them for Noah's bedtime routine most nights. Weekend outings to the park or the farmer's market took on the shape of family activities. Dr. Helen, fully recovered from her health scare, watched their growing closeness with knowing eyes. "He loves you," she remarked to Amara one afternoon as they watched Ethan pushing Noah on a baby swing at the park. "Not just Noah. You." "Mom," Amara protested weakly. "Don't mom me." Dr. Helen's voice was gentle but firm. "I've watched that man rebuild himself from the ground up for you and Noah. Question is, what are you going to do about it?" "It's complicated," Amara sighed. "Love always is," her mother replied. "But sometimes, it's worth the risk." That evening, after Noah was asleep, Amara found Ethan on the balcony staring up at the stars. "Penny for your thoughts?" she asked, joining him. "Just thinking about parallel universes," he replied with a slight smile. "That's unexpectedly philosophical." "Not really." He turned toward her. "I was thinking about the universe where I didn't walk away 7 years ago. Where I was there when you found out you were pregnant. Where I held your hand through morning sickness and doctor's appointments and Noah's birth." Amara's breath caught. "That universe doesn't exist." "No," he agreed quietly. "My choices made sure of that. But sometimes I wonder what that version of me would tell this version, if he could." "What do you think he'd say?" she asked softly. Ethan's eyes held hers. "He'd tell me not to waste any more time. That some mistakes can't be undone, but new beginnings are still possible." The air between them charged with 7 years of history, pain and loss, but also new growth and possibility. "Amara," Ethan began carefully. "I know I have no right to ask for more than what we have now. Co-parenting Noah is more than I deserve. But I'm still afraid," she interrupted, her voice barely audible. "Afraid of trusting you again. Afraid of what happens if this doesn't work." "I'm afraid too," he admitted. "Afraid I'll fail you both somehow. Afraid I'm not the man Noah deserves as a father. But I'm more afraid of not trying." Slowly, deliberately, he reached for her hand. "One day at a time," he reminded her. "That's all I'm asking for." Amara looked at their intertwined fingers, then back to his face. "One day at a time," she agreed softly. When their lips met, it wasn't with the passionate urgency of their younger selves, but with the deliberate tenderness of people who understood the fragility and preciousness of what they were building. Family and friends, thank you for staying with us through this journey of redemption and second chances. If you're enjoying this story, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to Mr. Steven Stories. Your engagement helps our channel grow and allows us to continue sharing these emotional narratives that remind us what truly matters in life. Now, let's see where Ethan and Amara's new beginning takes them. Winter transformed Ashford into a postcard-perfect college town. Snow dusted the campus buildings and turned the park near Amara's apartment into a wonderland that fascinated Noah, now approaching his first birthday. Ethan and Amara navigated their rekindled relationship with careful deliberation. They didn't rush, conscious of Noah's needs and the foundation of trust still being rebuilt between them. Date nights were simple, dinner at home after Noah was asleep, walks through the snowy campus, quiet conversations about everything they'd missed in each other's lives. "Tell me about the day he was born," Ethan asked one evening as they sat by the fireplace, snow falling gently outside. Amara's expression softened with the memory. "It was a Tuesday. 3 weeks earlier than expected. Mom drove me to the hospital at midnight." "Were you scared?" he asked, his fingers gently tracing patterns on her palm. "Terrified," she admitted. "But then they put him in my arms, and he looked up at me with your eyes, and suddenly everything made sense." Ethan swallowed hard. "I should have been there." "Yes," she agreed, not unkindly. "But you're here now. And you'll be there for all his other firsts." As Noah's first birthday approached, Ethan proposed a celebration at his house. "Nothing extravagant," he promised, knowing Amara's distaste for unnecessary displays of wealth. Just family and a few friends. Noah won't remember it, but we will. Amara agreed, though she insisted on helping with the preparations. The day before the party, she arrived at Ethan's house with decorations and Dr. Helen's homemade cake recipe. They worked side by side in comfortable synchronicity. "I have something to show you," Ethan said as they finished. He led her to what had once been his home office, now transformed into a nursery identical to the one in Amara's apartment. "For when you both stay over," he explained, suddenly nervous at her silence. "If you want to, that is. No pressure." Amara took in the thoughtfully arranged room. The crib with Noah's favorite mobile, the rocking chair positioned perfectly by the window, the bookshelf filled with the stories she read to him each night. "You've thought of everything," she said softly. "I try to," Ethan replied. "I'm still learning, but I want to get it right." She turned to him, eyes shining. "You're doing better than you think." The birthday party was everything Ethan had promised, small, warm, focused on Noah rather than impressive displays. Dar. Helen supervised the cake cutting while friends from Amara's program and Ethan's new local connections chatted easily. Noah, overwhelmed by the attention, eventually fell asleep in Ethan's arms mid-celebration. As the guests departed and Dr. Helen retired to the guest room, Amara found Ethan still holding their sleeping son, unwilling to put him down. "You'll get a cramp," she teased gently. "Worth it," he whispered, gazing down at Noah's peaceful face. "I can't believe how much I love him. Sometimes it feels like my heart can't contain it all." "I know exactly what you mean." She settled beside them on the couch. "Amara," Ethan said quietly, "I've been thinking. Your lease is up next month." "Yes," she acknowledged, watching him carefully. "I was wondering if you'd consider, if you and Noah would consider." He took a breath. "Moving in here. With me." "That's a big step," she said, though her expression remained open. "I know." He met her eyes. "But I want to be there for morning cereal spills and midnight bad dreams. I want to argue about whose turn it is to do the dishes and fall asleep beside you every night. I want us to be a real family, under one roof." Amara was quiet for a long moment. "My dissertation defense is next month," she finally said. "And Mom's been talking about moving to that senior community near campus. Is that a maybe?" Ethan asked, hope coloring his voice. She smiled, leaning in to kiss him softly. "It's a yes, with practical considerations." The transition wasn't seamless. Amara insisted on contributing financially, leading to their first real argument since reconciling. "I don't need you to pay rent," Ethan insisted. "The house is paid for." "This isn't about need," Amara countered. "It's about partnership. I won't be dependent on you, Ethan." They compromised eventually. Amara would cover utilities and groceries, while Ethan maintained the mortgage and property taxes. It was less about the money than the principle, they both realized. The negotiation itself, honest, respectful, with neither party dominating, represented how far they'd come. Spring brought new changes. Amara successfully defended her dissertation and accepted a lecturer position at Ashford University. Dr. Helen moved into her new apartment, close enough for frequent visits but allowing the young family their own space. Noah took his first steps, wobbling across the living room from Amara's outstretched arms to Ethan's. "Did you see that?" Ethan exclaimed, his face alight with wonder as Noah collapsed against his chest, giggling. "I told you he was close," Amara laughed, her eyes shining. That night, after Noah was asleep, Ethan found Amara in their bedroom, looking through an old photo album. "What's this?" he asked, sitting beside her. "Noah's first year," she explained, turning the pages slowly. "All the moments you missed." Ethan's throat tightened as he studied each photograph. Noah as a newborn, tiny and red-faced. His first smile. First tooth. First time sitting up unassisted. Thank you, he said hoarsely. For documenting it all. For making sure he'll know his whole story someday. Amara leaned against him. I used to be so angry at you, she admitted. Taking these pictures was partially to prove, to myself, to him someday, that we were fine without you. You were, Ethan acknowledged. You're the strongest person I've ever known. But that's not the whole truth, she continued. Some nights, I'd look at him sleeping and see your features in his face, and I'd wish so much that you knew about him. That things had been different. I wish that too, Ethan said softly. Every day. Amara turned to face him fully. But then we wouldn't be who we are now. And I like who we've become, Ethan. I like who you've become. He brushed a strand of hair from her face. Who is that, exactly? A man who knows what matters, she replied simply. A father who puts his son first. A partner I can trust with my heart again. Summer arrived again, marking a full year since Ethan had stepped back from his company to prioritize Noah and Amara. The board meeting to review his status as chairman was scheduled for July, a meeting his father insisted upon. Do you want me to come with you? Amara asked as Ethan packed for the trip to Riverton. No, he replied, kissing her forehead. You and Noah stay here. I'll be back tomorrow night. Are you worried? Her eyes searched his face. Ethan considered the question honestly. A year ago, this meeting would have consumed me. Now. He glanced toward the nursery where Noah was napping. The outcome matters, but it doesn't define me anymore. The boardroom at EdTech Solutions headquarters felt simultaneously familiar and foreign as Ethan took his seat at the table. Across from him, Victor Crossley sat with the cold detachment that had characterized their relationship since Ethan's childhood. The numbers speak for themselves, Victor announced to the assembled board. Quarterly growth has slowed under the current leadership structure. The chairman's, he looked pointedly at Ethan, divided focus has impacted investor confidence. The numbers tell a more nuanced story than that, Ethan replied calmly. While growth has moderated, profitability has increased. Customer satisfaction is at an all-time high. Employee retention has improved 30%. He distributed a report he'd prepared. This company was founded on the premise that education technology should enhance human connection, not replace it. Our current direction reflects that foundational principle better than ever. Pretty words, Victor dismissed. But the market demands aggressive expansion. Your domestic distractions have made you soft. Ethan felt the old anger rise at his father's dismissal but kept his expression neutral. If by domestic distractions you mean my son, then yes. Noah has changed my perspective. For the better. He addressed the full board. I founded this company to make education more accessible, more engaging. Not to maximize profit at all costs. If the board feels my priorities no longer align with their vision, I respect that. But I won't apologize for putting my family first. The vote was close but ultimately in Ethan's favor. He would remain chairman, though with the understanding that the CEO would continue handling day-to-day operations. As Ethan packed up his materials, Victor approached, his expression unreadable. You could have been extraordinary, his father said. Instead, you've chosen mediocrity. Ethan studied the man who had shaped so much of his early ambition, and his early fears of intimacy and vulnerability. No, he replied quietly. I've chosen balance. I've chosen purpose beyond profit. Most importantly, I've chosen not to repeat your mistakes. Victor's expression hardened. You'll regret this sentimental detour eventually. I don't think I will, Ethan said with genuine certainty. But thank you for your concern. As his father walked away, Ethan felt an unexpected lightness. The approval he'd spent decades seeking suddenly seemed insignificant compared to the family waiting for him in Ashford. He called Amara from the car. It went well, he reported. I'm keeping my position. That's wonderful, she replied, relief evident in her voice. Noah took 3 steps on his own today. I recorded it for you. I'm catching the next flight, Ethan promised. I don't want to miss anything else. Thank you for staying with us through Ethan's journey of redemption and discovery. If this story has touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to Mr. Stephen Stories. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful narratives about love, forgiveness, and finding what truly matters in life. Now, let's see how this story concludes. Fall painted Ashford in brilliant hues of red and gold. Ethan and Amara established. As Noah's vocabulary expanded daily, Ethan found himself constantly amazed by his son's development. Every new word was celebrated, every curious question answered with patience. Did it work? Noah asked one morning as Ethan set up his laptop at the kitchen table. Yes, Daddy's working from home today, Ethan explained, lifting Noah onto his lap. Want to help? Noah slapped his tiny palms against the keyboard with delighted giggles. Excellent input, Ethan praised seriously. Very innovative approach. Amara, watching from the doorway, smiled at their interaction. He's going to crash your system one of these days. Worth it, Ethan replied, kissing the top of Noah's head. Besides, I back everything up hourly. Later that evening, after Noah was asleep, Ethan found Amara in their bedroom, grading papers with determined focus. You look beautiful when you're being academic, he remarked, settling beside her. She looked up, raising an eyebrow. Flattery will get you everywhere, crossly. That's what I'm counting on. He reached into his pocket, suddenly nervous. I have something to ask you. Amara set aside her papers, her expression curious. Ethan took her hand. These past 18 months have been the most important of my life. Finding out about Noah, rebuilding your trust, creating this family together, it's everything I never knew I needed. He produced a small velvet box. This isn't about making things official or traditional expectations. It's about promising you and Noah that I'm in this forever. Opening the box revealed a simple but elegant ring with a sapphire, Amara's birthstone, rather than a conventional diamond. I'm not the same man who walked away 7 years ago, he continued, his voice steady despite his pounding heart. I'm someone who understands what matters now. And what matters most to me is you and Noah. Amara's eyes glistened. Is this a proposal, Ethan crossly? It's a promise, he replied. That I'll choose you and Noah every day. That I'll continue earning your trust. That we'll build something extraordinary together, not a company or a fortune, but a family. That sounds suspiciously like a proposal, she teased gently, though her voice wavered with emotion. Amara Lewis, Ethan said softly, will you marry me? She studied him for a long moment, her eyes tracing the features she'd come to love again. Differently than before, more deeply than before. Yes, she answered simply. I will. As he slipped the ring onto her finger, Ethan felt the completion of a circle. Not erasing the past, but building from it. Not ignoring their history, but transforming it into something stronger. They chose a small wedding the following spring. The university gardens provided a perfect setting, intimate and meaningful, with cherry blossoms creating a canopy of pale pink. Noah, now an energetic toddler, served as ring-bearer with Dr. Helen's careful guidance. Lydia attended, along with a small collection of friends from both their worlds. Noticeably absent was Victor Crossley, who had declined the invitation with a terse note about prior commitments. Standing under an arbor draped with wildflowers, Ethan watched Amara approach in a simple ivory dress, Noah holding her hand. In that moment, the magnitude of his fortune struck him anew. Not the billions in his accounts, but the wealth of connection, purpose, and love they had built together. Their vows were personal and honest, acknowledging both past wounds and future hopes. I promise to remember what I almost lost, Ethan pledged. To value what matters most. To be present not just physically, but emotionally, for every milestone and ordinary Tuesday. I promise to trust in who we are now, Amara responded. To build our future with open eyes and an open heart. To remember that true partnerships require both vulnerability and strength. Noah, growing restless during these adult exchanges, broke free from Dr. Helen and rushed toward his parents, arms outstretched. Without hesitation, Ethan scooped him up, and the three of them completed the ceremony together, a visible symbol of the family they had become. At the reception, Dr. Helen raised her glass for a toast. To second chances, she said, her eyes bright with unshed tears. And to the wisdom to recognize them when they arrive. Later, as they danced under strings of fairy lights, Amara rested her head against Ethan's shoulder. Happy, he murmured against her hair. Beyond words, she replied. Though I'm still not taking your last name professionally. Dr. Lewis has a nice ring to it. Ethan laughed softly. Whatever makes you happy makes me happy. They swayed together as Noah danced with his grandmother nearby, his little face alight with joy. You know, Amara said thoughtfully, when I saw you in that pharmacy a year and a half ago, I was terrified. I thought you would either reject Noah or try to control our lives with your money and influence. Both reasonable fears, given who I was, Ethan acknowledged. But you surprised me, she continued. You didn't try to buy your way in. You showed up. You learned. You put us first, consistently. Best decision I ever made, he said simply. As the music changed, Noah ran over, demanding to dance with both his parents. They lifted him between them, his peals of laughter the sweetest music imaginable. That night, after the celebration ended and Noah finally succumbed to sleep, exhausted from excitement, Ethan and Amara stood on their back porch gazing at the stars. Did you ever imagine we'd end up here? Amara asked, leaning against him. No, Ethan admitted. I was too blinded by ambition to see what real success looked like. But standing in that pharmacy, seeing Noah for the first time, something fundamental shifted inside me. For me too, Amara confessed. Seeing the recognition in your eyes when you looked at him. I realized I couldn't keep him from you, even if I wanted to. I'm grateful every day that you gave me that chance, Ethan said, tightening his arm around her. That you were brave enough to risk trusting me again. They stood in comfortable silence for a moment, the night wrapping around them like a familiar blanket. What do you think Noah will remember about all this when he's older? Amara wondered. Ethan considered the question. Not the details, probably. But hopefully the feeling, that he was loved completely. That his family fought for each other. That second chances are possible when people are willing to grow. That's a good legacy, Amara nodded. Better than any fortune. Though the fortune doesn't hurt, Ethan added with a smile. Especially for his college fund. Amara laughed, the sound as beautiful to Ethan as it had been that first night in the pharmacy, the laugh that had stopped him in his tracks and changed the course of his life. 5 years later, Ethan stood in the doorway of Noah's bedroom, watching his son carefully arrange action figures on a homemade solar system mobile, a science project they'd built together over the weekend. Looking good, buddy, he said, entering the room. Saturn's rings are especially impressive. Thanks, Dad. Noah beamed up at him. Mom helped with the paint. She's better at the details. That she is, Ethan agreed, settling on the edge of the bed. Ready for your first day of kindergarten tomorrow? Noah's expression grew serious. What if the other kids don't like me? They will, Ethan assured him. Because you're kind and curious and funny. But even if making friends takes time, that's okay too. The important things usually do. Noah seemed to consider this wisdom. Like how it took you and Mom time to become a family. Ethan smiled, constantly amazed by his son's perceptiveness. Exactly like that. From downstairs, Amara called, "Boys. Dinner's ready." Race you, Noah challenged, already darting past Ethan toward the stairs. In the kitchen, they found Amara setting the table while 3-year-old Lily babbled happily in her high chair, mashing peas with scientific interest. Wash hands first, Amara reminded as they entered. Both of you. As they completed this ritual side by side at the sink, Noah chattering about his solar system project, Ethan caught Amara's eye across the kitchen. The look they exchanged contained a world of understanding. Gratitude for the path that had brought them here, recognition of how close they'd come to missing this life altogether, and profound appreciation for the second chance they'd both embraced. Later, after the children were asleep, Ethan found Amara in their home office, reviewing student papers. Noah's nervous about tomorrow, he said, massaging her shoulders gently. I know, she sighed. But he'll be fine. He makes friends everywhere he goes. Like his mother, Ethan noted. Amara tilted her head back to look up at him. More like his father, I think. That crossly charm. Poor kid, Ethan laughed. Hopefully he got your common sense to balance it out. Amara set aside her work and turned to face him. Do you ever think about how different our lives would be if you hadn't walked into that particular pharmacy that night? All the time, Ethan admitted. Every parallel universe where I took a different route home, or sent Marcus in for the medication, or left 5 minutes earlier. We might never have found each other again, Amara said softly. I like to think we would have, Ethan replied. Maybe not as quickly or as directly. But some connections are too important to remain broken forever. Amara smiled, take only with you, he said, pulling her to her feet and into his arms. Only because of you. As they stood together in the quiet of their home, surrounded by the life they'd built, Ethan reflected on the journey that had brought them here. From a chance encounter in a neighborhood pharmacy to this moment of profound contentment, a path marked by difficult choices, painful growth, and ultimately, the courage to reach for something more meaningful than success. He had once believed wealth was measured in stock prices and innovation awards. Now he understood that true wealth lived in Noah's laughter, Lily's curious eyes, and the steady, resilient love he shared with Amara, a fortune beyond calculation, beyond price, beyond compare. The billionaire CEO had once had everything money could buy. But only when he walked into that store, when he saw his son for the first time, did he discover what he'd been searching for all along. Not an empire to rule, but a family to love. Not achievement, but belonging. Not success, but purpose. And in that discovery, Ethan Crossley found the only answer that ever truly mattered. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like, comment, and subscribe to Mr. Stephen Stories. Your support helps us continue sharing powerful narratives that remind us what truly matters in life. Remember, some chances come disguised as consequences, some fortunes can't be measured in dollars, and some answers can only be found in the eyes of those we love. Thank you for joining us on this journey of redemption and discovery.